All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of My Little Town here on Jolt Radio. We're here for lucky number 13 with our guest, Kerri Aultman, also known by her brand name, I guess, Vikerrious. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So I got to give a quick shout out, as always, to our favorite brewery. No, I can't say that because we work with a lot of breweries, but the last independently owned and operated brewery in Wynwood, and one of our favorites among a few others. That's really just a couple, but Jay Wakefield, shout out. Thanks for hooking us up with the beers, as always, for the show. Enjoying a nice indefinite Northeast Stout IPA today. So, Kerri, welcome. We
Thank
just
you.
made it. We're running a little late. We're running a little Miami time, which happens from time to time. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
To settle down. I have to settle my brain down.
305 time.
So, I always like to give a little bit of background. I feel like I try to get myself out of the mindset that everyone that's listening to this show like knows me personally and like knows everything about every guest that comes on.
Right,
so
right.
like the quick like broad strokes, origin story,
Cool.
So I did a little bit of digging, and so I feel like, not to dismiss or make it like everyone's a snowflake and everything, but like in a broad sense, I feel like your story is kind of it's a common story in the sense of like grew up in a very strict like Christian, like Southern Baptist, like I heard that in an interview or read it or something.
Yeah.
Family that repressed, and like sex was something very like not
Yes and no.
Clarify.
Okay, so yes, my upbringing was like really strict in the sense that there was a lot of church involvement, and my grandparents, my aunt and my uncle, my all of my family on all of the sides, but my parents were a little bit more free-spirited.
They were like the black sheep of
I wouldn't say
the
that
flock.
much. I wouldn't say that much. My dad definitely. But again, I didn't really grow up with him.
Okay.
So my mother, she still had that like free-spirited personality, something about her that spark. So I think that there was always that, but she also just still had the same viewpoints about
Right.
certain things as her family. So
Right.
yes and no.
Like it wasn't enough to kind of like break her through like
Right.
that world. It was within that world,
Right.
she did as much as she could like to kind of be herself and be
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So what brought, because I didn't see that anywhere, so I did see, so you started, you've been dancing like pretty much your whole life, I guess.
Yeah.
Ballet, jazz, hip-hop, like every, I think, form of dance that
yeah.
one could do.
Probably because I was just bored. But also just, I'm so curious.
Is that all, was there like a
I'm just
Footloose
curious.
like thing, or like was that like forbidden, and so you were like, oh.
No, it wasn't forbidden at all. Like my mom put me in dance like immediately.
Okay,
I
so
think
maybe
that
it was
she
it was
loved
a
to dance.
permitted form of expression.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You like gravitated
yeah,
towards
maybe.
that. So started like with dance, and then ended up in the world of like makeup and skincare. Right?
Yeah.
I'm fast forwarding this
Yeah,
because we're gonna
yeah,
get
yeah.
to like
Yes.
what you've been up to lately.
Yes. Go.
But so how did you get into the makeup skincare, and then if it's connected, if not, we'll put a pin in that. But how did you end up? Because so you were not, you didn't grow up here, right?
No. North
So
Carolina.
How did you migrate down? So if they're connected, we'll talk about it now. If not, we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay. I can migrate that in. So makeup and skincare was honestly like, my skin was really bad.
Okay.
Really bad skin. This was kind of like part of my journey. I was really insecure because of it. There's nothing that you can really do. I was like trying to eat the best things I knew how, and I don't know, my skin was just a mess. I went to a million dermatologists, and my mom was like always trying to make things better for my face and my life. Because as a teenager, when you have bad skin, it is horrible.
Yeah.
People are so mean. Like, kids are just
Especially
mean, man.
teenagers.
Oh god, it's hell. So my mom took me to a makeup store that she went to back in the day. Merrill Norman.
Okay, like I was gonna say, like a boutique
Okay.
thing, or like
No,
because I'm guessing there wasn't like
Listeners,
Mac
if
on
you
it
know what
before.
I'm talking about, it's like your grandma's line. But I actually, they were opening a brand new store and close in Kerri, North Carolina. And
Your namesake?
no, but ironically, that's
Okay.
sort of where I'm from. So I walk into the store with my mom to get this like specific product she wants to pick up. And it's actually not just the makeup store, but they have a spa in the back. And literally, it was their grand opening, and they were so busy. And I just ended up jumping behind the counter and helping these poor women out because they were like older women. One's from England and one's from Germany, and they're like older and amazing, but like
Right.
it's just a riot
A
to
wealth
watch
of
them.
knowledge,
But watching them try to like run a register and ring up products on like a new computer is hilarious.
Right.
So
when was this?
I was 15.
Not to like date yourself,
A long
but
ass
like,
time ago.
what kind of PO was it? Like the ka-ching? Like was it like
No,
one
no,
of
no,
those,
no.
or was it like?
No, it was a POS.
Okay.
You know,
I think
swiping the
Kerri,
card.
North Carolina.
No. It wasn't
like
that
maybe
bad.
maybe it could be a couple, a
No.
couple steps behind.
No, it was a really nice shopping center. Kerri is like the Boca of.
Okay, so like still
yeah.
like
Yeah.
up with the times.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a Whole Foods in our shopping center.
Okay.
We were in the high end shit.
All right.
So anyway, so that was like one of my first jobs. I just ended up behind the counter, and then I really was like, I want to work there. I just want to do that. And I just kind of grabbed it. I asked if they were hiring, and they were like, no. And you're too young. And no.
It's like, thanks for your help, but
okay. Then randomly one day I got a phone call out of the blue, and they were like, we need you. Please come back. We can't do it. And I ended up, that woman is my mentor. They became like part of my family, and taught me a lot. I ended up like coming to Florida because I went to aesthetic school because she convinced me to go to school for aesthetics.
It all comes together.
And I ended up moving to South Florida for a school year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then like many before and since, you said, I'm gonna stay?
Nope. I went back to North Carolina after I graduated, and I was home for probably like 2 or 3 years after. And then my dad's wife, my stepmother at the time, got really sick with cancer, and she was basically dying. And my dad's like, you need to come if you can. And oddly enough, I had just been fired from, like, I'd never been fired from a job. It was deserved.
That's good.
I hated
you own that.
I hated that boss. I couldn't even deal anymore, so it was fine. But it was perfect timing, so it allowed me the freedom to be able to come here and like pursue other things.
So he was living down here.
He was, and I basically never left.
Right.
He really just, that was a really big loss in our family and in his life and in our life, and it was a huge transition. Yeah. So they had been together for like forever.
Right.
Like 14 or 15 years at that point. So
right.
It was
a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, so I moved here for that.
Here I am in Miami.
Here I am.
And so what was that initial kind of transition like for you, kind of adapting to, was it, you're comparing, Kerri to Boca, so
wow.
I'm like,
well, I had already gone to college here, so I had already gotten a little acclimated.
It wasn't like that big like culture shock.
Well, also my mother, like, I have a duality with Miami and North Carolina. I've been here in both places, like, or South Florida and North Carolina, like half my life. My mom moved here with her business when I was in second grade. So I had like a whole series of elementary school here. I just have like moments of my life.
Chapters.
And now it's a longer moment here than it is there.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know. I chose it.
Right.
Or maybe it chose
good
me.
For us. Okay. So that's pretty good. Navigating that road here.
Thanks.
So I want to touch on one thing that I feel like it's funny because it's the first time that like we have people in the studio that is not John. Everyone knows John at this point because I give him shit during the show. But this is the first time we have like some other people here, and it's funny enough, one of them being Gypsy, who's a photographer that I'm sure at least a handful of the listeners right now know.
Yeah.
But
Gypsy.
It's funny because we only connected recently. I think it was this past Basel or the one before. I like bumped into her at the walls, and I'm like, hey, I've been following your your Instagram and your like your photography for years, like awesome, running into whatever, fanboyed out. And,
fanboyed out. I love that.
And no, because I remember like I'd follow her stuff in like 2009, 2010 when I was first starting to kind of be aware of all the like vlogs and like underground stuff, like which brings me to Vagabond, which is where I also first like kind of saw you for the first time, you like Bianca, like all the performers and stuff, because I moved to Edgewater in 2009 and I was 5 blocks away from Vagabond. So I was at for a good portion of time. I was there like averaging 3 nights a week.
Yes.
And that like I feel like I never before or since experienced that kind of experience, that like having a place where you feel at home, like that's not your home.
Like I think that
I'm
was
trying
like
to make it like for myself in Little Haiti, but
where?
Well, we have like Yo Space.
Okay.
Spot in Little Haiti. That I mean, it's more common. It's less. It's not the same vibe, but I want the same spirit.
Okay. I like that.
Like-minded people coming together to, not be at home for a while. But yeah, I feel like, I was talking to Gypsy before you got here about this idea that there's these like kind of, I don't know if it's nexuses, like there's these moments and places in time that kind of perfect storm, like if you think of like Greenwich or like Warhol's factory or like San Francisco and so I feel like that, I mean Wynwood and Vagabond, like that kind of world, I feel like cultivated like a graduating class of artists, artists of any form, like musicians and performers and all these people, that photographers that are now off adulting. I hate using that. Off adulting in the world.
We're not
and
really, guys.
We're trying to find a way to do it in our own way that allows us to not fully grow up. I think.
Right.
But yeah, it's like it keeps coming back, like this thing where like I'll meet someone and it's like, oh, what, you used to go to Vagabond? Like that's crazy. How did I never see? Like,
it's still a thing.
And I feel like that's very
like where were you at 9/11?
Right.
But in a better way.
Yes, yeah, in a good way. And with a bigger window.
Yeah, a much bigger window. But still, it had an impact like that.
Exactly. It's for in a much more kind of hyper local way. I feel like if you were in Miami, during those years, like,
and if you weren't, because people still ask me from out of town, hey, yo, I met you at that place Vagabond. Is that place still around? Let's go. No, it's not. No. Let's not talk about it. Where should we go? I don't know. There's nowhere else.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, Carmel was talking about maybe doing so. Shout out Carmel.
Carmel, if you're listening,
I have to.
We need a new Vagabond too.
He does his like travel
Vagabonds
gypsy
at large.
shit. Yeah.
Yes.
I have to tell this story like live on air because I've told this story to a few people, but the way that I met Carmel initially, so my name is Ophir, like my last name is Ophir, Ofir, his is Ophir, which I then found out the rest of his family spells it Of, and then he decided to go and be like,
oh really?
Change it. So
dun, dun, dun. Info on Carmel we never knew.
So the way I met him is it must have been not more than like a couple of months like into me, discovering like Vagabond. I, for whatever reason, came from like a business, bad networking, whatever, like background, and I somehow, whatever it was, article saw, the owner's name is Carmel Ophir, like he was interviewed, whatever it was. I'm like, oh, that might be, if I ever run into him, that's a good like icebreaker, like, oh, hey. Ophir, and literally when I went up to a bartender like one night and was like, oh, hey, is Carmel here? I'm like, oh, like, I think, like, oh, what's up? I'm like, oh, no, I just wanted to say what's up. Like, I don't know what I said. And then literally, like, introduced myself. Like, that was I was like, oh, hey, Carmel. Hey, I'm Paul. We have the same last name. And, I mean, like, he took it well. And, like, I mean, awesome. that led to, I ended up curating, like, a couple of the art displays, like, they were doing, which was amazing. At the time, they would feature local artists' work in the club. And did some of that stuff, and then we did some other stuff over the years, and beyond that it was just coming back to that feeling of like a family and home and there's people who, I mean, like you, that now, you know, years later, probably what, like 8, 9 years later, it's like,
has it been that long?
I mean, when did they close? 15, 16?
I don't know.
But I mean, I know I started going around like 2009, 2010, so
Yeah.
8, 9 years. Yeah,
Miss it. I
goes
still
fast.
miss it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I will tell you something really interesting that's pretty cool. When I was running the entertainment at the Edition at the basement, I invited Carmel because I got the opportunity to create a different concept for their club that most people weren't doing. Now it's like more, there's like a lot more, I think, culture happening in Miami, I guess.
You're going to say the Edition.
No. This is horrible. It's a trap. I didn't say that. I did say that. It's horrible. It's fine.
It's okay.
I don't like it at all. The music is terrible. The lineup, the people, everything. The owners are different. It's just not what it was before. But anyway, when I opened it, when we opened, and there was this beautiful concept that I helped to curate, Carmel came and he just looked at me and he goes, "You did it, babe. I think that this is the closest thing to what we did that has happened since we did it." And I'm like, yeah. It's very short-lived, and it won't be the same because it's, I mean, a completely different concept. Right. Hotel. It's a completely different concept, but yeah, the vibe was kind of like there for a minute, and it was really good.
Yeah. And I feel like we do have those like little moments now where it's like there's this spot and then before it gets corrupted or, you know, like whatever, like, I don't know. So at least it's good to like try and like appreciate them when we get them.
Yeah, for sure. Before it gets corrupted. By tourists.
Is it tourists?
I think so.
I don't know. I know tourists because of the open mic they have there, which I haven't heard anything change. Did the owners change?
I don't know.
We won't get into it. We'll talk about that after. So, all right. I wanted to talk about that now. Getting more into like current day. We'll get more into recent current events. So, I want to talk about an experience I had in an event and kind of get your perspective and experience like in parallel to that. So I don't know, I had mentioned you to them, but I don't know if they ever reached out or if I mentioned them to you.
Cool.
But there was this group called Spectra, which I don't know if they're still active.
They're not.
It's like, it's a weird, I don't know.
And I'm friends with them. It's kind of like right now, they're kind of, it's a duo, and I think one of the girls is dropping out, and another girl's going to take over it. They've been pretty inactive for a while, but we've circled back around with each other for a few times, and one of the girls comes to like as many of my events as she can, so yeah, it's good. We have great relationship. I've tried to really like curate relationships with people in that community, and it's working.
Yeah. So the community being, so the whole idea behind Spectra, which I met them because they reached out to me about doing their events at Neospace. In the lighting, we did. It was like 2 or 3 of them.
Oh, nice.
Before I kind of put everything on hold because of some of these renovations.
Right.
But so I got to experience that not as an attendee, but as I'm working the bar and I'm there and I'm kind of seeing it as a fly on the wall. And the idea behind the events was basically to have like kind of keynote speakers or like panelists that would talk about a certain subject, everything kind of revolving around sex and sex positivity and body positivity and like all of that kind of stuff.
I love their concept.
And then breaking up the audience into smaller groups that talk amongst themselves with like people to kind of like lead the conversation a little bit. Guide the conversation, and they come back and it's like, what did you learn? And kind of whatever. So I would hear at the end the people kind of giving their
perspective,
their feedback, or like what they got out of the event. And it stuck in my head, and that's why I want to bring it up, because there was one guy, and it was surprisingly many. I feel like there were probably more women than men there, but this one guy gets up and basically thanks that the organizers for putting this event together, because it's the first time he's felt like he can talk about these things or like to hear that other people think the same things, or
it's a thing.
And I feel like that's I kind of wanted to use that as a way to lead into kind of the sense that I get in terms of what you're trying to accomplish with everything you do in a way.
Yeah.
Because you do a lot, so I guess tell us give us a little
spiel
overview. Yeah.
Here's my spiel.
Give us your business card bullets.
Yeah. I'm a unicorn. I'm magical. That's it. No. So I guess I'm a dancer first and foremost. That's like in my DNA at this point. So I guess I've kind of like used dance. I've turned it into performance art. I've used it as therapy. All kinds of things. I've used it as therapy for like body image. So I'm a performance artist dancer first. I'm a skincare therapist like second, but I kind of like put that on the side.
Okay.
But I'm still a healer. I still do a lot of body work and energy work and stuff like that with people. And that's kind of like my first real career. So I have a lot of roots there. And then I am an educator. I taught college courses for Kaiser and like ran their program and wrote curriculum for them for like 2 years. And then I put that on hold to go dance my life away for like years and like really just get that out of my system. Mm-hmm. And now I feel my purpose really passionately right now. And I know that I'm here to like help people just be comfortable with themselves. Mm. And that's like my ultimate goal, and through their sexuality and their identity and their body and all of that. Mm. So I'm more focused on that right now than anything else.
Which is good. I think it's we talk about, I feel like even psychiatry or like psychotherapy, like the doctors of the brain, I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like that had a stigma for a while, and only in the last decade or a couple decades,
we're like everybody's in therapy.
Okay, and then
so I was talking to my therapist.
Right, and it's become part of pop culture.
It's totally just a conversation now, which is amazing.
And so I feel like that's kind of the next step that we're kind of going through now. Where in the last just few years, it's become more okay, or there are more
at least
people
a conversation.
Who are trying, exactly, to have that conversation. Do you think, because I don't really know in the timeline, but like shows like Hung, or like there's now this one on like Netflix that I didn't really watch. Good show. Bonding. You see that one on Netflix?
Saw it Netflix 3 times.
Okay, so
I've watched them all.
I guess
if you have a new one that I don't know about, please tell me.
Send your suggestions.
Send me all your sexy shows.
So
I want to learn.
Do you think, like, what I guess is the chicken and the egg question? Do you think that the fact that those shows are becoming, are out there more, are reflective of the fact that society is becoming more accepting, or those shows are helping society become more?
No, well, the way you said it first.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the shows are a product of the fact that society is like questioning more and they want more, and it's just like a product of that.
Right.
Just like all of the people that have been like kind of quietly doing this work are now like really doing this work out loud, and you're seeing, so you're like, wait, what? I was by myself doing this shit forever. Right. And now there's like so many people, like, how did that happen? And it's really just because people aren't not talking about it anymore. They're talking about it. Right. Like there's less vulnerability. Well, there's still vulnerability in the space, but people just don't care. They're like, oh, it's like definitely have a conversation.
It's more okay to be vulnerable.
I think we just don't care anymore. I think we're just getting to that point where we're just like, okay, enough already. This is like so absurd. Right. There's so much repression and oppression and suppression around sexuality, and it's terrible. Right. And what it does to people. And there's no education. Nobody that really had a sex education to help them in their sexual life.
Right. And I think if you did, it was the stereotypical,
it was porn.
Well, it's porn, but I'm saying if you had like a sex ed or whatever.
Your sex ed was not about sex. It was about abstinence.
Right. Or that if anything, anatomy maybe.
Sort of. Here, have this banana and learn how to put a condom on it. But don't use it. Don't ever have to use it. Okay? Because if you do, you're going to hell.
Right. So yeah.
Crazy.
So as like a kind of double way of looking at this next question, what's been your experience in terms of, because obviously in the last, I don't know if it's been like a year or a couple of years, but the whole like Me Too thing and all of that, I think things that a lot of people were aware of in terms of being like existing of happening in the world, and like maybe more specifically in certain industries, like obviously Hollywood and stuff like that. But I think it's something that always kind of permeated like civilization, ironically. But you know, this idea that, you know, women and other people start having a platform or having the ability to feel like they can be vocal and speak about these things. What's been your perspective in terms of that phenomena and how that plays into the openness or the willingness of people to kind of start having these conversations more in terms of them specifically, even if it's not related to something like that like a trauma that happened to them, but just being able to talk about those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think that the movement really cracked people open. I think that it really gave everyone that had ever experienced something such a platform and such a voice to just talk about it, and that is like such a wide range, because there's so many different forms of what people have experienced. But now, like, people are just having a conversation. It kind of normalized it a little bit. Mm-hmm. It sensationalized it for a second, right. And then it made it ugly,
right? Because
then there were like people just crying wolf, and that's never bad for any sort of a movement. And then, but still, people are still having conversations, and I think it's still a very valid movement. And I think that it was really necessary to start a lot of conversation and dialogue that needed to happen for a very long time, because now it is like really in the open, and those conversations are not going to stop.
Right.
It's like, you know, once you see The Matrix, you never really see The Matrix. Right. It's done, right. You know, so now it's done, and that's really important.
Right. And I totally agree. I think that it's the fact that the conversation started happening whether we wanted it to or not, and it was very public and things like that. I think it opened up the door for everybody within their own circles to be like, hey, and
this happened to me,
exactly, and to the people that didn't
how do I
even
navigate
know this
yeah.
existed, or that women dealt with this, or that it was an issue.
Oh,
like,
exactly.
now they're like, what? Like,
they're like, wait,
5 people I know, like, you know, like,
yeah, what do you mean? Yeah. And then I think that, like, I've seen, you know, more men standing up and like wanting to be, you know, allies and advocates, and they want to do more, you know, like, to be better. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, I agree, but
there's always a but.
I'm also, so this show actually, I mean, it's slightly different like format, but the old show that I did on here was called Cynical and Analytical, so it's very much a part of me. So just for argument's sake,
okay.
Have you found, because I'm kind of, I guess, I don't know, curious if that's the right word, but like I kind of think about, you know, is there a flip side where the same way how, so we just had, you know, Pride recently, and there was like Wynwood Pride, and there was all the drama around that, and you're corporatizing, you know, whatever, like Pride, and then around.
We live in that world, guys. Like, get over it. So, like, we live in that world. Like, we live, like, our whole structure is based on that shit.
Right, and it's the Mad Men era, just now
gonna happen.
Becoming, you know,
it's like, gonna happen with anything we do. Right. Like, in this era, in this day, in this age, that's just part of our existence.
But so that's what I kind of was a little like eye rolly about, is I'm like, oh, you're surprised that, because then it's like, oh, all these corporations are just like doing Pride stuff just because they've
been doing it.
And I'm like, yeah, and that's their business. That's
and not for nothing, but a lot of my friends in like, you know, the gay community got like really well paid for those events. Right. So why, like,
right?
Finally.
So I guess
for me, I don't know. I have my own opinion about it, and probably contrary to popular belief, but I mean, I just think that that's the structure. I mean, it is what it is until it fails.
Right.
You know?
But so the reason I brought that up is to tie it back to the whole like Me Too conversation and all of that, is to say, do you think it's already happening or will happen now as a product where
I don't know.
Now it's like, oh,
it's popular.
We're super like pro women, feminine, like whatever. And then is that opening a door for men or women, I guess, like on both sides of the spectrum, to like take advantage of people in a new way of like, oh, I'm so like oh, I think
that's been happening too.
Right.
Like, I think that's kind of like where we're at.
Right.
I think if
that's
anything,
just human.
I think that if anything, it's still going to bring more awareness.
Right.
You know, even if people are, you know, being shady.
Right.
I think that
that's what I meant to say, because since we're in a sunny place for shady people.
Yeah, definitely are. Welcome to Miami. But yeah, I think that like it's possible, just like it is in any, but I haven't seen it yet myself, and maybe I'm just blind, but I haven't seen anything specific that has made me feel like that, but I'm certain there are too many creeps out there for it not to be happening. You know?
Which I guess that was also, I guess, part of the to kind of follow up with that was doing what you've done, what you're doing in Miami in terms of being in the nightlife industry, in the performance, you know, like a risque performance, like arena. Has that been a big? I guess I'm asking because I don't know. I know you've done it in different cities and in different places, like, you know, around the world. How does Miami hold up, I guess, is my question, compared to like the rest of the world in that regard? Like, because I know I've dealt with people, whether it's like the fakeness, and guys and girls, not doing that. More on the
you already said it. It's a place for shady people, baby. Right. Like, it is difficult here. Right. And I've worked a lot of places, and I would say that it is really difficult here.
And so
I would really say that.
Like, what advice would you give guys or girls that are, you know,
don't work for free?
Okay.
Number one piece of advice. All my artist friends, just stop. I'm so over it. Like, you are changing the dynamic up in our entire community. And if you ever want to be respected for your art, don't give it away. It's your voice and your time. You will never get it back. So stop giving away your time for free.
Preach.
That, number one, just stop. Because it's diluting our brands, our businesses, like you as an artist yourself. Like, I never, even when I started out, never gave my time away for free. Not ever. Unless it's like charitable, or if it's like a non-profit thing that your friends are doing or something like that. You know, there's like always, you know, there's always
something that's, you know, close to your heart.
Yeah, exactly. Those things, the things that you really want to do. But if it's a work, you know, it's work.
Right.
I just recently had someone invite me to go on a trip to work, right? And they're like, oh, we're gonna give you a free room and board, and they own the resort. And they're gonna feed me. Oh, so it costs you absolutely nothing, and I have to pay for my own flight. And there are so many people doing that. Like, that's no, you're working. Like,
I think that's more tailored to like the Instagram models. Like,
that's so crazy.
That are just like.
But that is where we're going, which is really unfortunate.
Right.
And I think in like the digital age, it's kind of like it's become really difficult to be like a real artist.
Right.
You know, like everything is so. You can buy and sell yourself.
Right.
Like, oh, let me just buy these followers online, and let me get this filter, and let me get really good at this angle, and pushing these products. And,
I mean, even just like the analytics side of it, of like, oh, I don't know, there's like all the programs to like, let me post the right hashtags at the right time.
Literally taking classes on learning this shit. Right. Not that I want to, but what else is there?
Been good at
oh, it's a nightmare.
Ironically.
Listeners, if you want to help me with that.
If anyone wants
at Vikerrious.
It's a very fun internship, I would imagine, but you'll learn a lot.
I need an intern really bad.
But that is kind of, I guess, an interesting aspect of it, is to ask you how you found ways to set yourself apart and to make it very clear, to establish yourself as a brand and a business, and not like to set yourself apart from, because now I feel like Instagram model is a thing now, where it's like, you know, you could be broke and living at home with your parents, but you take a trip every now and then and post great pictures, and it's like, oh. Well,
I don't really think, like, you know, as an online audience, like, maybe I'm still navigating that and trying to figure that whole thing out, and I don't really know what my audience thinks I do, and honestly, I know that there's a lot of people that show up at my workshops, and they're always asking me about when I'm having new ones, and then there's like the other part of the audience that's like, when are you posting more naked pictures? I'm really down for that, okay? And it's hilarious. I'll post some real shit, and like nobody likes it.
Right.
They're like, where is your butt? I really want to see it.
So is that where Naked News was?
No, Naked News. Naked News. I don't know. Just happened one day. And you've seen the real Naked News, right? Like, honestly, Naked News, shout out. I want to be
You're
on
saying
your
it's like
show.
a show? I don't know.
Oh my God, it's a real thing. It's a
I
real
thought you
show.
I don't know.
And there are real women that do news anchoring naked. And I'm like, this is
like
totally
the
my
news.
vibe. I would be such a great news anchor for Naked News. Hashtag
We're
Naked
putting it out
News.
there into the airwaves.
Yes, I am. I want to be a host on Naked News. So
John, call some of your people.
so that's where I'm at with that. It's pretty cool. But I don't know, I just kind of started it and people really love it.
Right.
And I think they really love it.
Go figure.
But honestly, it's like all my female followers.
Right.
That are, all my friends are like, yo, I really love. And then there's like, even just like people in the business, they're like, I scroll past everything until you get to Naked News.
Right.
And then it's like, it's funny. Like, you're funny.
Right.
You're
I'm
talking
not even
about...
looking at you. I just think it's really
No, it's,
interesting.
of course he's
engaging.
looking at me, but it's also like... But it's engaging also. It's
Right.
not... I'm not just naked.
Right, right.
Like, I'm,
No, and I think that is the point is there's
Yeah.
millions of, like naked or half naked, women
Right.
on Instagram, and yeah, you just scroll by, like, so
Yes.
why are they actually
And
going to stop? Like,
right.
pay attention?
Right. So how have I done that? I don't really know. That's a great question. I guess I've just tried to like keep my voice what it is. Like what I want to say is important, right? And I had to get a lot like out of performing so much because I really realize I have a lot to say.
Right.
Like I have something to say and I have something to guide people in, and I have a message and I can help people, and so I had to kind of like set myself up to be able to do that more and to
Right.
be able to like have more of a message. And I think that's, I don't know, I hope that's why people like stick.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's definitely it's the idea of finding something that you can relate to or that engages you that
Right, that you're
makes
good
a
at.
difference,
Yeah.
So let's kind of use that as a segue actually to talk about a little more about what you have been doing more recently, which is like you mentioned, like workshops and seminars,
Yeah.
and classes and things like that. So how did you start kind of transitioning, I guess I would say, back into that, and then what does that look like? Like, in other words, do people hit you up and say, hey, I want to do a seminar, session or whatever, or like
It's both. I mean, people are hitting me up, but I'm also like doing a lot of advertising and like looking for clients and like going to places where I would find them and like making sure that like client testimonials and like word of mouth and these other things. I've kind of like for the summer, I kind of like backed off of like teaching like workshops and seminars. I probably shouldn't have. The summer's been really good for people, but
teachers get the summer off.
right, I don't know, it wasn't even that. I didn't really take the summer off. I was definitely working, but maybe this month, birthday month, but thanks. But I think that, I don't know, structurally I'm just a little bit of a mess. So organizing workshops in locations and figuring time and tickets and
well, I guess
it's hard.
More
Marketing, I think, is difficult. Like getting the word out to who,
right?
About these classes and like making them successful, because I really don't want to teach in a room full of 3 people. Like
Right.
I don't. Like
Right.
that's not at all my goal.
So I guess what is your goal, and also to talk more about what are you actually like? What are you talking about? What are you teaching? Like I know,
Yeah.
obviously it's like related to the sex positivity stuff,
Yes.
and like wellness. Like I think also both mental and like physical kind of
Mhm.
awareness and
Mhm.
wellness.
So I have like one of the workshops, like the first workshop I started teaching is how to embrace your inner slut.
Okay.
And I actually just got asked to write a blog about
Nice.
that for a really popular blog in New York. And I just finished that yesterday, which is really exciting. I have no idea if it sucks or not, and I'm sorry if it does, but I gave it my best shot.
That's all we did.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So that was my first workshop, and it really, like, I don't know, man, that thing just really took off. It took off, and then I got to a point where lots of people in the community wanted me to teach it, but they wanted me to change the name of it, and I refused. I was like, absolutely not.
I mean, what reasons did they give you to change
The
it?
slut word
Right.
is real sketchy to a lot of folks, and that's why I want to teach it, because
Right.
I'm trying to like, who created
Destigmatize.
destigmatize the word. And we could go into that whole story, but I won't. I'll make you guys read my blog. But I talk about
where can they catch the?
I don't even know. I know who asked me to write it, and I know that they have a podcast in New York, but I don't actually know what the blog is called. But stay tuned, and I'll give you the info. Yeah.
We'll shout out your socials, and people will will tune in, and maybe like they'll see the naked news. You know?
Yeah. I'll advertise at some point when it's live. Yeah, so that was the first one, and it really took off, and then I just started like, okay, what else do I know about? What else am I comfortable with? Like, what else can I learn more about? And what else can I share with people? And I just started making it a mission to like learn as much as I could, put myself in different situations, and try to come up with other things that I can share. And so I've taught Sensual Domination 101, Conscious Sex. I've done a lot of workshops with FIU.
Much better than non-conscious.
Well, you could be really shocked at the amount of shit that's out there. Okay.
You know, not to make me too.
Listen. Listen, people ain't lost some shit.
But sorry.
No, it's okay.
So
we can laugh about this, okay?
Sex.
Yes, conscious sex. Sensual Domination 101, How to Embrace Your Inner Slut. There was Consexual, again about teaching about consent.
Right. What's the other half of that word?
It's
sexual. Sexual, right? Consent.
Yeah.
Sexual.
Yeah.
Consensual sex. Okay.
That's more weird.
Right. I was thinking like contextual for some reason.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what it looks like. But that was a really great workshop. I was actually at the taco stand in Woodwood was decided randomly. I'm like, I really want tacos. It was like Friday night.
Uh-huh.
I was not drinking, doing anything. It's like 2 a.m. I am so wired. I think it was the full moon. I'm like, I have so much energy. I don't know what to do with this. I'm going to eat tacos.
Right.
So I came to Wynwood and went to the taco stand. I'm standing in this line, and this guy's like, oh my God, you're that girl. You were at FIU. You taught that workshop. I'm like, oh my God, please don't talk about what it is so loud. It's like all these people in line.
Well, what do you mean? You gotta own it, right?
I know I did, but it's still like,
yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
jump up on the counter. Like, yes, we're doing a seminar right now.
I'm standing in line wearing the like little hat, little paper hat from the taco stand, because I was the last one in line, and that's how they signify that you're the last person. I'm like, this is hilarious. I like this.
Does that happen to you a lot though? Like, I feel like
sometimes it does. Well, locally, yeah, and actually because I'm spending like the last 5 years in New York, it happens there, and I get so freaked out when it happens in New York. I'm like, oh my God. It's really the vortex, y'all. Like, this is crazy. It's so big here. How do people know me?
Right. I think it's like here. It's big.
It is. I think that you realize eventually that the world is just one big, small place.
Yes.
Giant, small place. Yeah. Once you're like connected, and you just keep seeing the little connections.
Definitely agree. So speaking of what, I wanted to talk about what doors or like what new paths because at one point you were focusing, you said, more on like the performance, whether it was like performance art, like I saw some of the stuff you did like during some of the years in Basel, and
still trying to do more of that always, but I guess I've taken a step back.
Well, in a different direction.
Yeah.
You know, but so I guess aside from or is that the answer to the question, from like going into more of an educational perspective or way of communicating, your message, going through that stage of like being a performer, like what doors do you think that was a key part to kind of getting to this point? I mean, I guess it is because you went through it and here you are, but I guess the idea that you can pursue your artistic voice through certain mediums, and it can lead you to other mediums, because I've seen like visual artists where it's like maybe they just fuck around with like sculpture to have a model for a painting, but then it's like, oh, let me fuck with sculpture a little bit. Like,
I think that the transition for me, to be honest, has been really difficult. And I think it's because it's like really difficult to kind of like, oh my God, I'm so like effortlessly a performer. Like, I just like know that when like I know that like in my everything, right? Like that's so organic for me, and this is like it's a challenge, you know. I wouldn't say
just think of it as like a performance.
Yes, everything. But there's just so much. Like I'm such an organic performance.
Teacher.
I'm such an organic performance artist that like I will do like I'll create like a beginning and a middle and an end to a piece, but I really enjoy just like the process in real time.
Right.
I like that flow the best. I'm not a great choreographed dancer, even though I've taken so much dance, because honestly my mind is too much involved with that, with steps. Like whatever's in my body is kind of what I want to be doing.
Right.
So in the moment, so with this, you there is so much preparation.
Right. You have to have
so it's not the same. But I kind of it's a challenge, but I really enjoy it because now I'm kind of like learning a different dance with myself, you know, and how to structure myself differently and how to present what I'm really passionate about in a different platform where other people are really getting something so much more out of it. I think that art is so beautiful, but I think that there's just so much interpretation.
Right.
And this is like so tangible, you know, and people really need this sort of message,
right.
You know. I think that like my voice is needed right now, you know, and like, yes, I'm still going to create art around these messages for sure. I'm like already planning something right now, but this is more it, you know, like I feel like this is more what the world needs. I don't know if I can say that.
Good on that.
All right. I don't know. I'm not trying to be some hero, but it's just my message.
I think we should all try to be some hero.
I guess. I just feel like,
I
feel
like Superman. There's other.
Yeah, I feel like it's just your job to find your gifts and share them, and so that's where I'm at. You know.
Yeah. That's a good note to wind down with, kind of getting to know where people could follow you and what you have coming down the pipe that they should keep an eye out for and.
Okay, cool. So I have a blog coming out. I will let you know. I will let you know where you can find that. You can follow me on Instagram at Vikerrious, Vikerrious. You can follow me on my Facebook page there also. You can check out my website because I'm updating that finally. I'm still trying to find get content from photographers and videographers, but I'm gonna be creating some new work, some new art. So be on the lookout for that. So there's some like video and photo work that's coming out.
Which I have to pause you right there and just give a shout out to because we don't go way back, but Depot.
Oh yeah.
The sets that you did with him, I really.
Yo, Depot! Cool. Shout out to Depot. Well, when are we shooting again? Because hello.
Yeah.
It's been like many years, my friend.
Yeah,
okay.
So I just again, small world.
I love my work with that man.
Yeah.
We've done some really good stuff.
Yeah, you should do something with the infrared stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, side note.
Yeah. Well, put that on the side. So, the website is Vikerrious.com.
Yes, everything is Vikerrious.
Just look up Vikerrious and you can make your life a little more vicarious. And,
yes.
Yeah, we got to get ready for David to take over for the next show, but. Got 6 minutes. I can just stream of consciousness. No, but you know what? I will talk about just to fill in a few minutes because I'm looking up. I always like when I have guests. I don't like to like go crazy, but I like to get just like, oh, what can I find? Like,
yes, what did you find?
Like, jump off
Tell me
of.
the juice.
Let's talk about the 2014 haircut.
Oh my God! You know where bring this up.
Especially because we were talking about your hair, like just like when you came in. So like, let's go back in time.
Should we?
Because it was like the New Times article came out, like
Vikerrious
interviews.
It's the only thing that New Times. Shame on you, New Times. I'm a really awesome artist for a long time in this community, and the only thing you've done on me is about a bad fucking haircut. But else soon. Oh, sorry, I said that. But yeah, there was a girl that asked me to be a hair model and we discussed like what I wanted and she was like in understanding of what I wanted, but I'm telling you that she just like murdered my hair. Like really. And then of course like New Times does their thing and they spin the story to make it look and sound the way that readers like more drama.
It's gonna,
right? So of course they're like, oh my God, it ruined her modeling career. Like they said I said that, which was not at all what I said.
Right.
I was just really mad.
But how did that even become an article? Is my point. Like,
because I contacted the New Times.
okay, so you brought it on yourself a little bit.
Absolutely, because I was really upset, and I think that I was just upset about the way they handled it because they didn't even want to like make me happy.
Right.
You know,
no,
like
they never. It's like,
look.
what's the story? What like? Is there a story? Okay, that's all. Like, now we'll take it from here.
Yeah, and it was really. I mean, I think that if
shout
a
out
woman
New Times, though, we love you.
Yeah, shout out. Shout out all our friends at New Times.
And I do have to give a special shout out Sierra Lavelle, who just stepped down as the editor of the Arts and Culture
cool.
section. I have to give a shout out because she did for many years and did a great job. I think she started after that.
Oh no! I mean, whatever. I'm not mad about it. I'm not. It's so old. It's so old. But can we remove it?
I just think it's an interesting.
So weird.
Right.
It's just so weird. But I did contact them because it was really bad.
Right.
And I just don't believe in any places like treating anyone like that.
Right.
Like, you know, if your client is not happy, like you fix it.
Right.
Even if it was like
it was about the attitude, how they handled it.
Yeah. And I'm an esthetician. Right. I am not without mistake. I have waxed people's complete eyebrow off. I've burned their skin in chemical
Maybe
peels.
It was just
like
a buildup of karmic, like
everyone makes mistakes. Hairdressers have bad days, so do doctors. Like, you know, people are human beings. So go into things with that realization. But, you know, when I've ever met, first of all, you are not paying for anything, and second of all, what can we do? Like, I will give you everything for free because I just screwed up really bad and I want to make you happy. Like, admit when you're wrong and just do what's right, and they didn't, and so that made me really angry. Especially since it was like, hey, I need you to be, hey, will you volunteer to my head to be your hair model?
You about,
yeah, and we discussed it. I was like, look, I'm not going to walk out of here with what I don't want, right? No, you're going to love it.
I just thought, honestly, why I brought that up is because I thought it was a valid point, because in the article they're like, so I don't remember if it was a quote or just mentioned, but like the fact that, you know, you can lose work, like it affects your livelihood.
Oh yeah.
And that idea of like,
have a shaved head for a model, like or a dancer.
Me, it's like,
I mean, obviously wigs and hair pieces, but still, like, yeah.
So things to keep in mind if you're going to go down that road.
So if you're
going to
really
make
want
sure
to
you're
look me
on
up
point.
on Google, you can find my haircut in that ad. There's a photo. Look it up. Epic fail of 2014.
Well, you know, here you are 5 years later, and, you know, I'm probably the first one in a while that's brought that up. So.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
At least it's not, you know, a daily occurrence, you know.
We just need to get some more things on my Google AdWords.
There you
go. We need better things up there.
Yeah.
Shout out to my web designer.
Maybe ask them, you know, maybe New Times, you know, just be like, listen, guys, it's been 5 years. Like, just put it to bed. Like,
thanks.
We'll see what we could do. Oh, one last thing I did want to ask, because I feel like at Vagabond you were part of more, and it's maybe just because I don't go to the places that you like do shows at, because I'm like a hermit and I like go to the same 5 places, but ironically I guess.
It's okay, same. Just because I work in all these places doesn't mean I go to them.
Right.
I also
I guess
really am a hermit.
But so I guess the question I want to ask is like, is there a distinction, or would you classify what you do as like cabaret? Because now I see more of like, you know, like Rio, like they do like the.
I don't do that.
Right, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Would be considered like different.
I mean, I do, but I don't know. Like, it's so weird how I've classified myself, I guess, because it's really just about me.
Right.
I've worked with a lot of those people.
Awesome. That's what I guess that's what I did with this podcast.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've worked with a lot of those people and I've done a lot of that thing, but I just feel like that's not what I do, and I feel like what they do is so specific.
Right.
I don't know that I fall into
like it's
a niche.
Defined. It's
yeah,
like very
and mine
in
isn't.
a box.
I've done so many weird things that I'm just like, what was that?
The one with the pool.
Oh man, I was just looking up photos from that, and I'm like, what was I doing? And then some people are like, that's your best work.
Right. Well, there's that, and then the
I
one
can't even watch it. I cannot watch it. You can watch it. It's on my YouTube, but I can't.
Like, subscribe, follow.
At
you
Vikerrious
can watch
on
it,
YouTube. Actually, I think it's called Living Vicariously, which is kind of cute.
It is. I think I said that earlier, but we'll let you have it. You had it first. Cool. So Spectra.
We went through your
The only
list.
thing, the only thing I'll end on. I don't remember. It was like in the last like year to 2 years, you posted a picture of like a before and at like, I don't know if it was before you moved to Miami or when you first moved to Miami and like now, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Who the fuck?
Transformation.
Who is that shit?
Not to say better or worse, whatever, but like,
so weird.
yeah, very. I feel like you
Found
became
myself.
the person that you envisioned as opposed to being like, I have to be stuck in like,
You know, and I've been like kind of like doing a lot of meditating and breaking that down for myself and like kind of figuring that out because, you know, like it's just identity, right? Like it's kind of just ego. We kind of just like wear this identity and we like decide that we're these people.
Right.
And truly,
right.
I don't know. I just like expressing myself this way, and I think that I always have, you know. And even in that person that you saw pictures of, still was like really outside the box for where I was from.
Right.
You know, I was like the first girl in my whole town with an asymmetrical bob. Like we chopped the whole side of my hair off, and everybody's like, "What is that?"
Just
yeah,
set
I
the
was just
tone.
a little bit different. You know, like I like to express myself that way. So.
I appreciate that you came on and expressed yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really cool.
Oh, what a great segue. All right. Yuval, yo-miami.com. It's Yo Miami on Instagram. Thank you, John.
Woo!